let's start with questions, and especially reminder of what we did last week. No questions? I'm going to open my chat window. There we go.
No questions yet.
Okay.
Well, I have a something.
Cool.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about, I guess, dreams, I think, a little bit last time. And I thought it'd be fun to hear you talk about this part of my dream. It's kind of obvious. There were these big buildings, brick buildings that were exploding. But I wanted to hear what you could say about, there was a pearl, a giant like oyster water fountain of a sort. And it was the one beautiful thing amongst all these exploding brick buildings.
Okay.
And, and there was water in the fountain, and I was putting my hand in trying to get the pearls or a pearl in there. Yeah. So I would love to hear about the pearl.
Okay. All right. So I'm sorry about the noise again, but it's okay. It's gonna stop soon. But anyway, that's a very good dream. Any dreams of like earthquakes, building houses being broken, especially brick house, it's earth. So change, it's a change of world. The world is changing for you, and your earth is transforming. Now, the fountain aspect, you probably know what it is, but I mean, sometimes when you dream, you don't get it until someone tells you. You'll be practicing the fountain of life in your body. That's your macrocosmic orbit. So basically, that's how the energy, your 7 levels of individuation, you as the person being evolving, that outgrowing basically the world you're used to. And the pearl basically is that refinement you bring within yourself through going through the life experience. Very good. Yeah, very good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, very nice.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Gilles, your audio is a little muffled. Is your
What is
speaker? Yeah, your voice is a little muffled.
Okay.
Is that even plug? Oh, that's better.
That's better.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the plug.
Oh, you're good now.
There. Okay, that's good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's because maybe the sound is trying to try to filter the background sound.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, so it's okay. So it's aligned now.
It's better now.
It's going back and forth, so no problem.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question? Yeah. No. Okay. Let's start then. Last week we went through working with the fire, and the metal, the communication, basically being attracted, the law of attraction, and working with, these aspects. And the positive, most positive aspect, of course, of a fire is the law of attraction, being attracted, in life. Being attracted to be able to do what you want, the way you want it. And that's how the fire enhances your world. Your earth, basically, is enhanced by being warmed up. And water, being here, is that the fire now in your earth, and you bring the water to the surface, and that's the intuition, that's your spirit guiding you into being able to take only the very best of that information from the past, from your instinct, and being able to filter out. So most important, what I want to enter more today, and always going back to earth, is how, especially with the help of earth and your own body, your own presence, how to get your mind to enter a place of systematic self-support rather than always being confronted with internal conflict in between those intelligences. So again, I'm going to take any questions before I get into that because we're going to juggle. We're going to juggle with the 5 forces today. So especially, you know, when you think the question is stupid, it's probably really needs to be answered and everyone can really benefit from it. So that's important. Okay, no questions? We'll get into it. All right. So very important, you know, as a practitioner to have the discipline to allow ourselves to progressively change for the better. And this involves what we call patterns of habits. A pattern of habits, so that's about memory and the memory of life. That's coming from water and water energy. Water energy get us into no need to remember anything because we do things by reflexes. We don't think about what we do because we're so used to do it. So that's being able to be carried by water. You're floating and the water is carrying you, and the water power is so strong. Again, you cannot resist the power of the tide and the power of the waves. It's a way too strong. Remember, 1 ton per cubic meter of water. 1 meter is just 3 feet. So 3 feet of water, 1 ton, that lifts your car already and brings it away without effort. So even you in your car with 1 meter of water, don't resist. You'll be floating away with that. So that means that a pattern of habit coming up to fire, yes, you see it, yes, you feel it, but still very strong coming from the past. So the key word for anything we want to change is about paying attention. We pay attention, we're aware, we get aware what we do, and then most of the time, by the time you get to consciousness, which is a work of wood, meaning that delayed reaction from the event, but darn, I did it again. Basically, you caught yourself being into a situation that you thought you knew better, you could do better, but somehow you cannot help but do it again. That's okay. So basically, that's how Earth works. And that's what takes time, because it's about consciousness, and consciousness is about wood. Wood is not so fast. We talk about the speed of thought, thinking that it's really fast. Well, think about how long it takes you just to remember what you did last week. You know, it's what it takes. It's the power of wood. Wood, you can look through your window and look at trees, and you know they're growing. And you see all the plants, you know they're growing, but you don't see them growing. And you think that they're all the same all the time. It's just that you remember that some time ago you could see over that tree, and now the tree is hiding whatever is behind. So that means it grew, but you didn't see it growing. You just, you're aware that now you'll be able to see or not see something that was there before. So that's the speed. That's the speed of consciousness. That's how long it takes for the Earth to grow mental connection in the body. But that's okay. You know it's happening anyway. You know that actually every time you catch yourself making a mistake, you know that next time around it's going to be easier not to make it, or to do something different, or to have a different approach. That's what cultivation is about. It has come from the earth. And when you plant vegetables and you plant corn, you know you're not going to eat the corn. You're not going to get the crop next week. And it's going to take some time. It takes some work. And it doesn't help to water the plant like every hour. It's going to rot if you do that. You have to let nature take its course, basically. And so basically, you know, we're part of nature, so we need to work with nature, not against it. And that's most important. Any questions about that? So don't be afraid of interrupting. If you wave, you know, I can see it. Yeah. Because I might go quite fast, like we did the way we did last week. It was quite a fast pace. Anyway, in any kind of internal conflict or mental situation that requires us to change, it's very important to remember to go back to earth. To go back to earth means taking the time. Taking the time, being present, taking the time to be present. One of the big problem we have, you know, in our good education as a Westerner, is that we are taught to think ahead, which is not bad. I mean, it's okay to think ahead, but just don't do that all the time. We have to take the time to be present. You think ahead, you know that things have to be done, and it will be done. But in the present, we have to set the right conditions in which it's going to be done the best way possible, with the best result. And it needs to feel good. And that's when it takes a juggling. And when we feel like, okay, I have to do this, but I don't really feel right about it. But somehow, you know, it's like, what, you know, I don't have much choice. As soon as you hear no choice, that means you need to stop. That means because if you have no choice, that means you are in one direction and going off course. You need to go back to earth, meaning take the central part of your existence where your existence runs around you and you are the center. And that way, you're not going like in a course and start to go around the world instead of having the world going around you. That's the very important part about taking the time. Once you take the time, it doesn't matter even if you're late. If you're late, okay, you're late. So what? You know, being late doesn't mean that you need to run because you're late anyway. So take your time. So at least once you get there, you won't be out of breath, you know, and all panicked on top of everything. So taking the time to be present and to take the perspective to, then you can go to wood. Then you can go back to rational thinking once you're not ahead of yourself any longer. Because consciousness, of course, always going to come from your nervous system, always going to come from wood. But be able to change this pattern of habit of, you know, being caught up about the shoulds and the out of being present. Because we should, you're looking even in the future, from a future perspective that's virtual, and that's part of imagination. It's not really current yet, so we don't know. Or from the past, because it was a project you've been planning about and should be working a certain way. But in the present, what's going on in the present is most important. Because from there, you have the right perspective. And not only the perspective from the consciousness of good, but also from the other intelligences, especially from mental intelligence, which is your emotional self. A very important part of wood, it's like wood always going to follow the rules. And if it doesn't follow the rules, you're going to have to make up more rules or justifying, basically rationalizing to justify what has to be done. And that's okay. That's the job of rational thinking, of that part of intelligence. But we need to also respect the other intelligence from metal that not only follow the rules and the law, but need to respect your sense of ethics. Yes, okay, it is the law,
It is the rules, but is it good? Is it ethical? Am I going to hurt anyone? Am I going to hurt myself? You know, is it honest? Yeah? Does that respect my sense of respectability about myself? Does that have, you know, if I do something that takes the self-respect out of me, a big part of my existence is being challenged. Yeah? So very important to be able to, and this can come only from the earth perspective. Because yes, the voice of emotional voice always going to be present, but remember that rational thinking is not present. So the only way that your emotional body is going to need to be able to be heard by your rational thinking is by giving you a symptom. You cut yourself sometimes. You know, you say something that you know somewhere it doesn't feel right, and you cannot help but you have a cough or you sneeze or you have a something happens, right? Your body is telling you that wait a second, you know, you need to readjust here. So always going back to the present. That's a very important aspect of this interaction about rational thinking, the decision we have to take, and never taking a decision from that perspective of wood, was going back to earth and checking the other intelligences.
So from meta, from your within your breath, then how do I feel about it? Is that okay? About your fire, is it enjoyable? Is it attractive? Is it gonna, you know, is it participating to creating a better life in the future? And from the water, of course, is it respecting my tradition? Is it respecting where I'm coming from? Is it going to be? It's not going to be comfortable if I do something that's so outlandish. Doesn't belong to my origin, right? It has to be filtered out. It has to be adapted. It has to be upgraded before it can be utilized. So the idea of taking the time is so important because it is a time we call maturity. It doesn't matter how hungry you are. If you eat the food that's not ripe yet, it's going to make you sick. It's not going to nourish you right.
So it's really about going back to earth, about taking the time so things are right, and things not only is going to be right, it's going to be much better than you can even expect it, usually. So that's about working with the tendency we all have and we learn to be ahead of ourselves. So it's about, again, once again, it's about self-respect. It's about respecting, listening, paying attention to really is what it is that we really want and how we want it. Okay? Is there questions coming out of that? Because that's the fundamental, the most fundamental part. Okay, I can continue. All right. So once you connect, you know, with the earth, then you're at the right place. Being at the right place means, number one, you working out this conflict we often have between the way we think and the way we feel. So very important to get also in touch with the possible negative outcomes out of that, negative aspect of what can happen if we listen a negative aspect of wood or a negative aspect of metal, and how that can be worked out. Okay, I don't see anyone waving. Okay. So, positive aspects of interaction
let's start with the positive aspect. We went through it already, but it's good to repeat. Positive aspect uh, from wood toward metal. Most important is always to get that perspective. Moving from, be able to move from what you should be doing and I have to do, what should be done, the way it should be done, and always taking the time to look at the way you feel about it. So not only it's a validation of the method. So usually you're gonna have to stop when you feel there's something, you feel the internal conflict. So even though you really want to do it, but you're getting a symptom. Again, we're talking about the sneeze or the cough or itch somewhere, or you feel a stomach ache or a restriction somewhere. Um, so being able to go back to earth and at your inner meta, it's okay. You have good reason to feel that way. No need to justify, no need to look for reason, no need to look for solutions, but I need to pay attention to my feelings. So always validating your feelings no matter what they are. And what happens if the feelings are coming from a negative aspect, negativity of metal, metal not reflecting the light of your spirit, but somehow being stuck up somewhere. There's a little mud, there's a little blemishes, it's not really reflecting properly, and it's caught up into the need of, that's not, feels it's not right. Or especially from the rational thinking, you feel like, whoa, this is, it's not going to work. So always going back to earth, to allow earth to settle this down, to have the perspective of say, okay, something has to be done, but somehow it feels like, oh no, I don't want this because self-image, that's a big one. I always come out, very often comes out. I am not like this. I don't feel like, in terms of to respect my self, I have to look that way and not that way, or to do something a certain way is it's not what I expect, for my the way I should appear to people. So be aware about shoulds again. So it's not about having to, especially when you are able to see that your that kind of metal, that image, is not really your image, but the way you should be looking. Then you have to pay attention. I mean, okay, I have something to learn here. There's something that connects with not being able in touch with myself. And that's a very important part, because you have to remember that we don't know ourselves. We learn from other perspectives. And that perspective comes right from wood, from learning what the other people see from you, through how you do things and things like that. And if you pay attention, you're starting to learn more about yourself. And especially things you don't want to know about yourself. That means that's especially something that needs to be outgrown, needs to be learned, needs to be integrated. Yes, it is difficult to admit that there is something in ourselves, in our emotions, especially in the emotional body, that we don't like. But that's the very base of healing. Remember that healing is nothing else but to pay attention about the feelings we don't want to have.
Because we have them. Yeah, if we have them, if we don't want to have them, we need to change. And it's the process of changing that's called the healing process. This is the most difficult part of the healing process. That's why it's very important to pay attention. And that's what is the place of self-evolution, to get involved into really your healing process.
Okay. I'm gonna next question here because I think that there is a step to go through, and this part that should be understood together. And that's the essence of healing aspect. So, any question?
Gilles? Gilles?
Go ahead.
Um, uh, I listen what you explain. Yesterday, I want to explain something. Yesterday, I was with one friend.
Yeah.
I don't know, because one moment I feel I was not here. I feel very strange.
Mhm.
I decide to go out. I
Mhm.
say, okay, I must leave. I take my car. I go to the beach, to the place where I like.
Mhm.
And here, at this moment, I feel a big pain in my heart.
In your heart.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I know physical something changed. I don't know why. I can explain.
Mhm.
But after this, I feel empty.
Yeah.
My heart is empty, and how I can say, but it's light in the same time. You know, not
Yes, it's a place where you feel like there is a emptiness in there, but it's not bad, right?
yes.
Okay.
I I don't. For me, it's not the same. I don't know what's up. I don't know where. I understand nothing. I just feel
Yeah.
the pain. On the thing it was funny when I arrived to the beach, the sun was hid par les nuages, caché par les nuages.
Yeah, hidden behind the clouds. Yes.
Yes. And after when I leave,
Mhm.
the cloud was go out.
Yeah, so it gets sunny again. Yeah, that's a manifestation in life of what's going on in your body. What's like an echo of what happened in there. I don't know what was happening with your friend when you left, but somehow you felt like, yeah, there is something that needs to change here. And what you did, you changed location. You went to a place of strength, where of beauty, instead of a place where there was a usual, habitual, maybe familiar, but
Yeah.
somehow not comfortable any longer.
Yeah.
And this is basically the attitude of going through a healing process. And that's why it's so difficult. Basically, when you go through healing, you actually entering a tunnel. You don't know where you're going because it's dark. You don't, and it's curved, so you don't see the end of it. You get in there, and you know that there's no turning back because you're coming from a place that might be familiar, but it's not comfortable any longer. Yeah? And you go toward a place you know, and especially you went to the beach, so you know it's going to be more it's going to be better, but it's not usual yet. It's not something. I mean, you're not going to live on the beach. No, it's just that you need a place where you get the sun, you get clarity, you get that sense of being exposed to your light, so you can follow your spirit. So you change location, and now it's difficult because again you're coming from a place of habit, so the place of that's comfortable, but it's not so comfortable any longer. And you go toward a place that's too new to be comfortable. And so it's literally being between a hard place and a rock. You're coming from that place of habit that used to be comfortable, but it's not comfortable yet. And well, it's not comfortable any longer. And you go toward a place that's not comfortable yet. But somehow, especially you get there and the sun is behind the clouds. So it's not that comfortable. And when you leave, sun comes out.
Yeah.
That means eventually, whatever process you're in, it's going to become more comfortable. But you allow yourself to take the time for it.
Mm.
That's the main thing. See, the thing we have as good Westerners, well-educated Westerners, we don't have patience. Things have to come right away. To learn to have patience, I tell you, everyone should grow something. Even if you don't have a backyard, if you don't have a piece of land to grow your vegetable, grow some like geraniums, on your window, like flowers, something, and be aware of what time is. Because what time is for nature is exactly the same thing for your inner nature. It was important. It's like in especially martial arts. And martial arts is not the art of going faster. No, that's a big mistake. The art of martial art is to be on time. Not too fast, not too slow. And if you have to go fast, and there is a way, it is said, you have to hurry slowly. So even when you have to hurry, you have to take your time. And that's one of very, very important aspects in life. Even in time of a hurry, even in time where you have to really be fast and run, and that happens, of course, you still have to take your time. You have to pay attention. That means going back to earth. Not following necessarily only your light, because that's so attractive. You want to go fast. You want to go. You cannot wait until you're there, right? That's being attracted, and that's the fire. But again, there's a big negativity of fire. You have to be careful. Fire burns. If you go too fast, you're ahead of yourself. If you're ahead of yourself, you're ahead of time. It happens to so many geniuses that work so hard being ahead of themselves, being ahead of time, that they end up doing things that are not adapted to the present. So that makes them, they're going to be discovered maybe way after their death. Oh, those were geniuses. They knew better. But in the meantime, they suffered a lot in their present time. Future is going to come fast enough, no matter what. We don't need to speed up the process. So this is that was a good thing for you. What happened is that another lesson that tells you, okay, just be patient. Good thing is going to come at their own time. And that's what's happening.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's why this night I make a dream too. For the long time, I see my daughter.
Yeah.
And one moment she cries. She has something to do. And one person went with me. I ran I ran, and I was surprised because I arrived the first, and I coach, and I catch my daughter.
Yes.
But the sensation that I have at this moment,
yeah,
it was strange. I'm not the father. I don't know why I have this.
Okay, don't we? Basically, that's the same thing. It's about taking the time. It's like once you're on time, it's like in martial arts. That's the difference between the beginners that are rushing around trying to go fast, and the master that looks like he's taking his time, but he's always on time. And when he's on time, you arrive before everyone.
Yes.
No one can catch the master.
Yeah.
That means you are the center again, and the world is spinning around you. So let the world spin around you, but stay at the center. Keep the center.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions before we move on here? And taking the time being for me one of the most important aspects that can really transform our lives. And that because without it, there's no healing possible.
Hey,
So healing,
Gilles,
yeah, go ahead.
I had a question about learning about who we are through others. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. Well, since we were talking about martial arts and any kind of performing arts, actually, or sports of movement, people now that we have videos, so is learning about what we do and how we can improve. And when we take a group, usually we take a group of people performing, either dance or martial arts or any kind of sport or whatever, and it's far enough so you don't really distinguish who is who. You are able to recognize everyone just by the way they move. But that one person you don't recognize, that's you. We don't know how we move. We don't even know how we sound because the sound of what we hear from our voice coming from inside is not the sound that other people hear. When you hear a recording of your voice, you might not even recognize yourself. Pictures the same thing. You look yourself in the mirror and you move one arm, and what's moving in the mirror is the opposite arm. You move your right arm, it's the left arm moving in there. So the way you see your face is completely different. Only know that face is you. Because everyone around you know that you don't look like on the mirror. Your face is all twisted. Your right side or the left side and all that. Yeah. So at the mind level, exactly the same thing. We don't know ourselves. We know ourselves only through the interactions we have with others. So that's why we need to pay attention, not to pretend. And that's what destroys your mental. That's what creates a bad reflection, because we think that reflecting to the right, they're actually reflecting to the left. All right? It's a mirror effect. And that's what metal is. You know, what creates the mirror effect? It's not a glass. Now, if you look at a glass, you go through it. You don't see the reflection. To see reflection, you have to have a layer of metal behind that shines back the light through the glass. And that's called the mirror. And the mirror is always going to give you the wrong picture. It's close enough, so we can do a lot of things with it, of course, but it's not the truth. If you want the truth, listen to your friends. But not only one friend, okay? Use several perspectives. Yeah. You need to have the wider spectrum possible. So that's why you cannot have only one friend. You have emotional needs that not only one person can fulfill. So that's why social life is so important. And that's why we call the mental intelligence, we call maturity, is also social intelligence. And the capacity to communicate meaningfully with others. And this we can only get by communicating meaningfully with ourselves. So that's why the subject today is so important, about being able to deal with the negativity we have that we don't want to face. Does that make sense? Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, so that was a good question. Yeah, continue. I'll take a sip. Okay. So that's the soul axis. We have, when we deal between rational thinking, what we should be doing and how we should be doing, how we've been taught to do, and how we feel about it, being able to respond in a way that keeps our integrity in terms of the emotional level, and be able to deal with both negative aspects of rational thinking and emotions by always coming back to the earth, coming back to the present. Because again, your body never lies. You just can't. Because you're present. You look around you, okay, what's going on really? Right here, right now. Do I have to be afraid? And that's in martial arts, that comes from going from here, the need to protect yourself, but blind yourself, right? Can't see a thing. To here, okay? Now, I'm still protected, but I can see what's going on. And then I realize, oh, there's no danger, so why having this here? Why wasting the energy? Okay? You guys always there. Let's wait. Let's take the time. No need to rush. No need to run. Really getting from a place, a central place of we call reason, of common sense, being down to the ground, basically. Yeah. So once we get those two negative aspects, it's about paying attention again, but this time getting into the spiritual axis. So it's already hard enough to deal with just the way we feel, the way we think. And then most important is not taking it personally. And that I know is very difficult. And that's what prevents people from healing, actually, because as soon as you take it personally, you don't want to take it. And that's how we build denial. Oh, no, I don't want to be that way. That's not me. Too late. This has been done already, and who did it is you. So that's the fact. So going back to earth again. So how not to take it personally? That's a big thing. So we basically have to move from the soul axis to the spiritual axis. So soul axis from rational thinking to feelings, from the consciousness, taking the step back and contemplate and see what's going on, to the place of being right here, right now. Yeah, but this is how I feel about it. To getting a more, less personal perspective, coming from that's the way things are from a long time ago. It didn't start now with me. This is continued business. It's something maybe, yes, that for this time I did it, but I'm not the first one. I'm just following a pattern of habit that's much older than I am. Therefore, if I couldn't help but do that, it's probably for good reason. And once you are able to get a perspective, then we can be able to change whatever it is that needs to be changed there. Because the problem of taking personally, meaning that you don't want to face it, oh, no, this is too much. I don't want to be that way. You know what? I'm changing right now. I'm healing right now. No, that's not possible. I would never do it again. Yeah, no. This is my last drink. Yeah, you'll be there. Everyone, be there. So that's not possible. Somewhere in there, that is not going to happen. So for that is to admit that it's not personal. We don't choose our feelings. That would be so good. Imagine if you could choose your feeling, you're feeling good all the time. No big deal. If you could change your feeling the same way you can change your thoughts, imagine that. The thinking is the last one who talks is the one who's right, until you test, right? So you can change your ideas so fast. But feelings, no, you cannot change your feelings. So the feelings we have is very important not to feel responsible. I feel that way. It's because I have a pattern of habit coming that way. And if that pattern is older than me, that means that it's going to take some work. But you know what? There's a good news here. Pattern of habits that we're aware of, we can change. The reason why that I inherited such pattern of habit is because people before me were not aware. They couldn't help it. They had to behave that way. I don't have to. Now I know better. I'm just used to do that so much. I'm so used to think that way. I'm so used to feel that way. I'm so used to behave that way. That is not going to change right away. It's going to take catching myself several times before I can progressively turn around. Remember, any change of behavior takes the changing of your whole nervous system. It takes changing, of the operating system in your brain, changing connections. Synapses have to have different. We have to have different connections. So just at the strict biological level, changing as a person is a lot of work. That takes time. That the time it takes for your grain of corn to be able to grow corn. It takes several months. And that's fast. Some plants like peas, and they grow faster. Radishes, you plant them in 2 weeks, you eat radishes, okay? And so those are things that can grow easily, and that's good. That's good to use that. So you don't starve to death until because you want to eat corn. No, in the meantime, you have radishes, you have peas, and you have all kind of beans and all that before the corn season happens. So same thing in the behavior. In the behavior, you know that, hey, there's some stuff that, that I can change, because I don't feel like I'm like that any longer. So woof, those are the radishes that grow out. And that's okay. But then again, by keep nourishing yourself what's current, by the time you get to the right season for corn, you're already a different person. So the corn you harvest is going to be so digestible. And that's very important because changing doesn't require that amount of suffering that people think they have to go through in order to heal. It takes taking your time. And I know, we've been told, especially in medical, situation, you have a symptom, you have to go fast, you have to rush, it's an emergency. No, there's no emergency, never. No. Even if you're about to die, you still take the time again. Remember, hurry slowly. Don't make the mistake to take the wrong drug, like so many people do. So many casualties because of that. Just because someone was a little too fast, diagnosing too fast, prescribing too fast, not respecting the reaction of the person, not being present and looking at even the expression on the face. It is something very important to change. Always going back to the present. And also, from a spirit perspective, not only from listening to your feelings, but again, paying attention to pattern of habits. And what gets people in martial art is to get the wrong reflex. You know that if this is done to you, you have to react a certain way. And you do it so often that you cannot help but do it. So a good thing, what people do in martial art to win is to trigger the wrong reflex on the other. So you you show like you hold the hit that way and you hit it the other way. Wrong reflex. They spare the wrong direction and they get hit. That's how life, happens. It's how we learn things. Once you get hit a few times like that, you learn to unlearn the habit because it hurts. But life hurts also. So we have to learn exactly the same way. So we need to learn things that we need to change because we do them by habit and it's not even conscious, it's too fast. It's subconscious. Because to be conscious, again, takes time. It's always going to be a delayed reaction. So we need to integrate in the body that pattern of change. And that's called entering the healing field, the healing process. Getting into a new habit. And that's very important to understand also this nature of water. You don't want to throw away water. So you cannot just get rid of water. You cannot get rid of habits. Don't. Respect. Especially the habit that you don't like. It might be bad habit, but it's still water. All it needs to be filtered, it needs to be purified, it needs to be changed. Changing the water, don't throw away the water. So same thing with the habit. You have a bad habit, you cannot get rid of the habit. Change it. Do something even opposite, but based, all going to be the same based. So the same water that you expose to the sun, to the UV rays of the sun that kills bacteria, you filter through all the gravel and all the sand. Basically, that's how you get it. We call the best water in the world, it is spring water. Water that's being filtered out by, sometimes miles of dirt under the ground before they get through that spring. And it's so fresh, so good. And especially exposed to the sun, and so bright, so beautiful to look at. And receive those rays from the sun. So good. So it's the same thing at the mental level. We have pattern of habits that's so old. But then what is coming from so far? When it emerges up after filtering all that water, that's your body right here, right now. Your body knows how to hold back, how to filter out everything that's not current any longer. And that's when we need to take the time. By taking the time, we do that filtering. I ain't too jumping into the tradition because always been done that way, my bloodline, and we're proud of it. And that's okay. But you could even be more proud by doing something that's more current, more adapted to you immediately. Especially when it fits your soul. Not that it changes the law to something better and gets adapted so it's more responsible from an emotional perspective. It respects, more respect for you and for others. So only from the earth perspective can you have that central attention from all the intelligences around you and everything that's going on in the world around you. So always the going back to earth. That's so important. And okay, it's noisy behind me. That's good practice. Today, I think that's a good practice because that requires you to have the effort of being very present. Yeah, to have that background noise, all of a sudden it stops. See? Yeah, pay attention to what's going on in the world around you and how it reflects the way it feels. Because then you get in touch with what we call the dream life. It's not what's going on in the world that so makes it so annoying sometimes. It's how it reflects on your own emotional level. Why noise so annoying? Because it prevents you he obliges you to be more present, actually. He prevents you from being away by your too much thinking. Yeah. So, voice is back. Okay, so I'm gonna mute it to hear if there is any questions. Okay, no questions. I'm back with the noise. All right, so and now I went away already. So, but that's okay. We're in a good pace. And next week, and it's going to be the last class until November for me. Kaleo is going to replace. I'm going to do more functional work in terms of practice and all that. And this class is more about the nature of consciousness. So it's going to be more general class, trying to answer as many questions as possible next week. And so don't miss it. It's going to be good. But anyway, I have to continue here and the working those interactions in the mind of all the different intelligences to be able to have a much better control from the central place of the mind. Of your, that's the place where everything goes back to, instead of being dominated by the shoulds. It's okay again to give the good voice and to rational thinking into consciousness, but make sure it's not the only voice you're listening to. Okay, next step. So, from water, taking the time to filter out. So, taking only the very best. And before you discard the water, make sure that you know what it is that you want to keep. In the mind, the same thing. And there's a pattern of thinking that needs to be updated, that needs to be outgrown. It's not good to keep thinking traditionally a certain way just because our ancestors did. Yeah? But at the same time, there is something to respect in there. What is it that needs to be retained? What is it that needs to be discarded? This can only be done from the present perspective again, with exposure to the light. Yeah? So that's when fire becomes important. The fire, of course, your light, your attraction always, remember, is not only yours. Some other people are attracted by the same light, but no one really is attracted the way you are because of your own perspective. So that spirit, it needs to be shared. And it is already shared. You're part of it. So whatever from the past, from water, we bring to the surface, and we want to filter out, and we choose ourselves to filter, to take out what is it that we don't like, and to keep what is it that we really still really need, we enjoy. And eventually, even that enjoyment here might go through more sophisticated filtering with time, by going through, again, your present, by going through your body, by always consistently being adapted to the need of the present. So that's why truth is always relative. It is good. Because that truth is always going to change according to the perspective you have on it. So bringing that these mental aspects to the present and expose it to your future. What is it that we want in the future? To always be using the light to be attracted to a better future. There's never anything wrong with more light, as long as we are not blinded by it. So that's why I don't want to go too fast. We want to adapt to the quality of light. If you are in the dark, too much light will blind you all of a sudden. So again, taking the time to adapt. There is something that you feel like, wow, everyone is telling me I need to change that. I don't feel like it. No, I like the way I feel. I like the way, So that means that, that the people's going, oh, you need to see more, you need more light. And you're in the dark. You get all that light, you get blind, you don't see anything any longer. Yeah? So that means what? That means you have to respect the progression of the idea. You have to respect the progression of the concept. You have to follow the progression of that emotional evolution. Every single steps have to be taken. Don't jump steps. A step we jump during evolution has to be taken eventually later, which requires regressing. And I really believe that's what we are experiencing right now at the global level, in the world. And there's so much suffering because progress has been going so slow that we have to go back in the evolution, emotional evolution, in order to catch up to the needs of the present. In order to evolve as humanity, racism is a big issue, And see, there's a place of time where maybe racism was needed in order to evolve to a certain place. But we forgot about what it was because now we know that, no, we don't want racism any longer. But somehow we carry it. So we try to change. And be careful, but people say, oh, no, I'm not racist any longer, whatever, because that means someone is projecting mentally about shoes and basically not respecting the space of evolution. That's how the worst mistakes are being made. That's how we hurt people. Be true to yourself and be honest with yourself and express it. I'm not perfect, but you know what? I'm better. That's be really human. Now remember, perfection is not a human attribute. Don't try to be perfect. Be honest. That's perfect. That's perfectly human. If you're honest with yourself, then you're honest with others. And what? You will be respected. But if you don't respect your feelings, if you pretend, then you only can lie to yourself. Everyone around you knows how you're lying, and you won't be respected for it. That's the way things are. So again, it's very important to always bring back to yourself, being back to earth. This is the way I feel. I cannot help it. Right now, that's the way I feel. I might be different later, but right now, this is the way I feel. Now, if I want to change, if I want to be different, what would it take? What is it that I need to go through? What is it that I need to learn? What is it that I need to do in order for me to get myself there? And that's called entering the healing process. Once you're in the healing field, you can only get better and better instead of getting worse. But if you're in denial, pretending that you're in the healing field, you're stuck there. Yeah. And again, you not only you lose the respect of others, but you already lost your own self-respect by not respecting your own feelings. And the problem in our good educational system, that's where people get stuck, because not being aware of what's going on in themselves in the present and pretending because they are ahead of themselves and there is a should. I shouldn't feel that way. Therefore, I pretend not to. And that's it, you're stuck. In order to heal, in order to evolve, in order to change for the better, we have first to admit and to validate the feelings that we don't want to have. Because how can we change something we don't know what? Huh? How can we change a feeling that we don't know how to we have? We have to admit that we have the very feelings we want to change in order to change. And this is done in the present, not in the future. And it was not done in the past. That's why it's now in the present. It needs to be recognized, it needs to be validated in the present in order to be able to have a better future. And you know what? The future starts now. So don't look at the better future, like next year, whatever. No, it's now happening. By admitting something that you want to change in yourself, you already feel better in the present. That's the experience that everyone has in the healing process. So, that's why it's very important to go back to the present, to the earth intelligence, rather than still keeping the wood intelligence, because the wood, again, is not in the present, it's out of time, right? So we're always looking the future in something like very far. And the past, it's like, oh, I've forgotten. Anyway, and because not see the present. That's how thinking overrules your present. As soon as we think, we stop being present, we stop feeling. So how to stop thinking? You don't stop thinking. You take the time. You breathe. You still think, but your thinking is not controlling you any longer. You're controlling your mind. Your mind, your whole mind, it comes from a central perspective of Earth. And Earth knows everything because it has the absolute yin, inner perspective of things. And from the present, you have the whole of eternity here. That's why taking your time is so important on every aspect. From respecting the past to not being ahead of yourself in the future. Most important part. Okay? Little pause. So something always also waiting for your questions about this. Reflection or feedback, something that needs to be addressed.
Gilles, I have something.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I found that in this time of isolation and everything that I am much more comfortable. I have no desire to socialize. This is the only group I participate in. And it has been a tremendous time of healing for me. Mm-hmm. I don't feel anxious about you suggesting that socializing is important or reflecting on mm-hmm. interaction with mm-hmm. friends is a guide to healing, because I found before COVID, I was so overwhelmed by it that my business had gone all the way down the tubes. I was only seeing maybe 3 people a week. Yeah. And I don't know if I'll go back to work. I obviously have to do something, but I don't mm-hmm. know what that is yet. And I'm feeling this class has just been amazing and supportive in that interaction. So I just wanted to share that in many ways I have an opposite experience, but I know that I'm in a healing process, and imagine that it's something I'm going to carry back out into the world, and that I am preparing and healing for a future. And this time is an incredibly rare opportunity for me personally, and I would imagine for many people besides me and our environment to recover for what is to come. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for this class.
Very good. Yes. So basically, I tell you, any time of crisis is an opportunity for healing. And I believe that's what's going on in many people around us. So being aware of the positive, you need to be aware of the negative, of course, but there's so much positive going on also. So basically what you've been doing with the COVID pandemic that's been around and everything, it's so negative for many, actually, and maybe some negativity for you also, but the positive aspect so strong allowed you to be present with yourself and develop the capacity, taking the time for it. I went through that myself. I was amazed that, for example, hey, look, the opportunity of Zoom classes. How about that? If you had asked me before, last year even, even December, that I was going to teach things on the internet, come on, teaching meditation on the internet, teaching healing on the internet, come on, you need to have contact. Well, there is contact. I'm amazed, that how I learned to establish contact and be able to transmit, a knowledge that I thought I wouldn't be able to do that way. That took time. I took a whole month off. For me, like, it's enormous. A whole March, after March, part of April, after I came back actually from the retreat, the last retreat you were there, Taylor, that I thought, well, that's what it takes. And then now even taking even more time, learning that the time needs to be taken, then things happen. So don't worry, Heidi. You have gold in your hands with your knowledge, with what you know how to do. But you need to come from that sense of perspective where instead of running after people, you get people coming to you. You don't have to do anything. And what you're doing right now is exactly what's needed. You're building the habit of being the center of your own world instead to be around it, being at the periphery, being, letting others basically spin you around. That's what most people do, when they're being told what to do and how to do it and things like that. No. You had to stop working because somehow your work was not really doing the way you really want to do it or the way you like it. There's something now. Basically, you're becoming your own butterfly. To become a butterfly, you don't switch from being caterpillar to butterfly all of a sudden. It takes what we call incubation. Incubation is essential for progression, for any kind of progress, for any kind of healing. Incubation is the time it's needed to be a caterpillar, a worm, and turn into a butterfly. It takes deep transformation. I am writing about this, actually. This is a very important part about transformation and healing. At a strict biological level, how can a caterpillar turn into a butterfly? How is that possible? Well, biology, basically, we discovered actually quite recently, and it's like an enigma for science. It's a completely different being there. In a caterpillar, there is in the tissues, there is some cells that develop right from the beginning. They even name a new name for those cells. It's called imaginative cells, a cell with imagination. And those cells are so different than the original cell in the caterpillar
that the immune system of the caterpillar start to destroy them. I don't want to be imaginative, basically. But as the caterpillar ages, there's more and more of those cells growing, and eventually it reaches a critical mass. And the caterpillar start to transform, start to, I cannot fight any longer. So what do you do? What does caterpillars do? They go to sleep. It's called incubation time. That's why sleeping is so important in healing. I went through that myself. I grew wings. Well, actually, no, I grew new legs. It's all right. Surgery. Even with surgery, you need it. You need to be prepared to have a successful surgery instead of having rejects, for problems and all kinds of side effects. You go through the healing first, and then surgery becomes what you need, part of your healing process. So any kind of life-transforming event that's going on, like right now, we cannot jump and be the best that we can be just all of a sudden. And that was it is still such a big, nice opportunity for everyone to go to that place, central place of Earth, to that cocoon, and do that incubation. We need to cocoon. Cocoon means comfort. That's the power of Earth. And we surround ourselves with what's comforting, what's supportive, and we hide from others. Very healing space. So very, very good. Yeah, that's a very good thing and a very good aspect of healing there, Heidi. So don't worry. The caterpillar, while he's going through the incubation, has no idea what's going on. Probably thinks he's so sick, he's dying. And yes, he's dying. A part of the caterpillar will never be there any longer. A big part of it is transformation. And when he starts to wake up in a cocoon, start to be the butterfly, does he remember being a worm? Does he remember being a caterpillar? Forget it. Ugh, that's yucky. And that's, never done that. It's not me. It's like a kid, 3, 4 years old, just being toilet trained. And you tell the kid, you remember a few weeks ago you were going in your pants. He said, oh, are you kidding? It's disgusting. I've never done that. Yeah. And that's basically, when we change. We're not the same any longer. We cannot expect, there is no, you cannot expect to be like you were. You're not predictable the way you were. If you are 1, 2 years old, you're predicted to go into your, that's why you have to wear, diapers. And that's okay. Because you don't know better, you don't have the level, you don't have the maturity. We have to respect this aspect of growth, our minds. And that's the evolution. And humanity is an evolution. So we have to respect the crisis. We have to respect every single step we have to take in order to evolve, because the step we don't respect, again, we have to take it later. And that's going to become a crisis. We want to evolve without the needs of those crises. By listening, by paying attention. But once we're in a crisis, we have to use the full power of it, full healing power, by retreating into the cocoon, by taking the time, by sleeping longer. That's the to me, most important aspect of healing, allowing for a nice and fulfilled and complete transformation. Imagine something that comes out of cocoon, half a caterpillar, half a butterfly. Poor thing, that would be horrible, right? Yeah, no, you don't want to do that. Take the time, yes. Back to earth, always. So thank you, Heidi. That was a good opportunity to say a lot of things that need to be repeated. Okay, any other question? I can open my chat window and see you at the same time, so I have a problem there. So it's hard for me to see.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you if there is a
Okay.
question in chat, but there
Okay,
isn't
good.
at the moment.
Okay, good. All right. I can close my chat window. Good. Okay. All right. So, what to do? Now, it's okay to take your time. It's okay to be at home, huh? But make sure, you allow evolution to happen. And that's a big problem we have. And like right now, in this time of crisis, people have been told to stay at home, even if you don't feel like it. So what happens is that you don't feel like being present with what you do. You turn on the TV, you get in touch with the medias, and basically you're not present with yourself. And you bathe into what we call the problem. You bathe in whatever the crisis. We basically stuck into the most negative aspect of the healing process, which is the resistance to healing. Being caught into a place between water and fire, where we avoid earth. So if water has contact with fire, it's going to extinguish the fire right away. That's why, in order to get in touch with whatever it is that we need to change, we need to do it from a central place of being present with ourselves, of paying attention. You cannot just expect that, oh, I have a strong spirit, therefore let it happen. Right? But if you're not present with yourself, you know what happens? That water is going to extinguish your fire. Yeah, big problem. And last week, Olivier and someone, I think it was Taylor, was talking about religion and some problem with religion. Again, the problem is not religion. It's what people do with it. If we're stuck, the religion is supposed to enhance your capacity to raise your fire, fire, open your heart, be a better person, following a stronger, a higher spiritual level, right? But some people somehow, they get stuck into some religious aspect, pretending that's a religion that makes them do things. No, religion cannot do that to you. Only you can do that. Religion is for guidance, to help you elevate your spirit. But if you don't elevate your spirit, no religion can do that for you. So that's how some so-called religious people can commit atrocious crimes and a tremendous amount of suffering around them. But what? Well, guess what? This against another crisis. It's symptomatic. It's something that needs to be healed, that needs to be outgrown. So don't change the religion, change the religious. The religion's like feelings. It's not so much a matter of choice, it's just where you're born. You don't choose your place of birth. Oh, of course you can travel and then you change. But if you're in the place that the religion is whatever, Islam or Catholicism or whatever, Christian or Buddhism, whatever, you have to respect. And you want to be you have to be a good part of that society, about that the world, and you want to be good, and you want to improve it. So it's not about changing religion. It's not about changing, the spirit. It's upgrade. And that's why I really like Taoism. I like that way the things are. It's because it's away from should be. And Taoism is the way things are. It's not the way the things should be. And respecting the way things are, respecting nature, respecting where we are. So allowing this consciousness, this opening of the mind, this understanding about the biology of consciousness, that brings us really to a more contemporary aspect of looking at spirituality from a very scientific perspective. Really adapting that's water from the past. Water is precious. You don't want to waste it. It doesn't matter what religion carries it. Again, you don't throw away the water, don't throw away the religion. You filter it. Take the very best of it, because every religion is something very precious in there. It needs to be saved, it needs to be preserved. Might not be the same in every religion, but I'll tell you what, at the center of a religion, always same precious principles, because humanity always driven to the same ideals, the same, we have only one sun. In Islam, they say there's only one God. It's not necessarily the God of Islam, it's the God of humanity. So it depends where you're born, then you have a religion. But the same God, same life principles, same creation of life, same perspective. And the biology is going to be the same no matter what religion is. That's because the biology of consciousness is the same for everyone. This is very important to understand, because once you understand that, everything is okay. There's no such thing as a wrong religion. There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. There's no wrong feelings. It's only positive, negative, no wrong. Okay? It's an energy level. It's like electricity. There's a positive pole, there's a negative pole. Right? You have a battery in your car, the positive pole, negative pole. Nothing wrong with the negative pole. Nothing so good with positive either. You need both to have the juice running. So it's the positive, negative aspect of energy that allows life to run. So very important to respect. I have so-called negative feelings. They don't make me bad. I'm not bad from having bad feelings. I'm just having feelings. I'm not my feelings. I'm the one who have them. I'm not responsible for them. And some of those feelings are coming from ancestral things, the habit. Yeah? I want to change them. I need to cocoon. I need to take the time. I need to sleep over it. And you know what? It's going to change. It's going to grow in a way that I have no idea how good it's going to be. But I tell you what, it's going to be much better than anything you can expect. So that's why should be taken away, because any kind of should would prevent that unexpected goodness to appear in yourself. The same way the unexpected goodness can appear in the world if we take out the shoulds. So not only it's not about everyone adapting the same religion, not everyone adapting the same feelings or the same way to think. No. It's to be able actually to reach that place of so much diversity, so much wealth, that everyone support each other into being a better all the time. And that's called emulation. We were talking about that already last week. That's why I'm bringing it back today, because something really needs to be cultivated. Using the difference of others to help ourselves, learning from those differences to improve our own. I am different. I have a different culture. I have different origin. I have a different past. I have, so many things. And some stuff in there I want to keep. I want to keep eating garlic, okay? It's part of my tradition. I like garlic. Now, I have to respect the fact that some people don't like the smell of it. So I have to do certain things about it. I have to refine my way of eating garlic. Well, or what do other people do?
I learned. And you learn to have to use certain more herbs, to use parsley with garlic. Then it's gonna, lemon, that. It helps the garlic to be digested more easily, especially if you add thyme and rosemary in your cooking. And then that's actually turns into sweetness. That's something that you learn only through practice, by learning through others, not by suppressing, not by adding, not being in competition, but just by connecting with what should be done. You don't add sugar to neutralize. You don't want to try, you want to enhance everything. Sugar and garlic is awful, it's horrible. You don't want to do that. No. You just want to cook a little longer so you get the sweetness out of the garlic. And you put some thyme, you put some rosemary, you put some bay leaves. What people have been doing for ages. And then it is digestible. Not only that, but it makes you stronger, enhance your immune system. Yes. And yes, some traditions don't eat garlic because you cannot meditate. Yeah, because you don't eat garlic properly. Yes, garlic is it's not only a food, it's an enhancement of the food. It's like all the spices. It's not really nutritive aspect in there, but there are balancing and enhancing effects. It's the first step into medicine. It's the first step into using, and that's how herbs are used first. It's as food, they're adding to the food to take out certain toxicity, to prevent parasites from being in your system. Learning to use spices, basically at the mind level, is to use that refinement in our mind, to use those interactions in between the different intelligences to benefit and to enhance all the intelligences together, not against each other. Okay, I've been talking a lot here. So so don't be, I know that's hard to interrupt, especially on the internet, because you never know. But yeah, if you have a question coming in, very important to answer here. Ooh, no questions. I mean, everyone's like, nice. Okay. But anyway, still next weekend. So think about all this and this weekend. Again, send your questions. And I'm going to avoid answering from my phone because they don't get published when I do. So I have to take my time and wait until I'm in front of my computer to be able to answer the questions and I have to repeat it. Okay. So see, I learned. I'm a student like the way you are. And that's what I always say about teaching. You always teach what you need to learn anyway. So I'm learning. Hopefully I'm learning. Becoming a better teacher. No questions? So we are like, yeah, we're like 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Could you speak more about the biology of consciousness? When you said biology of consciousness is the same, and you spoke about the battery, and I understand all that, but there's just something that stood out. Is there anything else you'd like to share about the biology of consciousness?
Yes. There are already 2 booklets out that I recommend you to read, especially the first one, because it's a clear description of the biology of consciousness. It's not coming out of your brain. Your brain is only a piece of meat. It's not your mind. In order to manifest consciousness, you need an infrastructure, which is called the body. And the different intelligences, so different body parts. It's very simple. Not everything has to come, it doesn't have even to come throughout your brain. Your brain, yes, it's a central, it's like a central place of distribution, especially from the nervous system and perception. But a lot of your mind is distributed throughout your whole body. So your whole body is not your mind, but your mind needs your body to carry it. So that's down to straight biology, anatomy, physiology, all that. So in a nutshell, again,
if you especially review the first few lessons, it's going to be in there also. Rational thinking only comes from your nervous system. And that's the slowest message system in your body, believe it or not. Because coming from an intellectual perspective, of course, we do have a better model, so we think it's so fast. No, your feelings actually much faster. Your emotions, yes, they need to go through the nervous system in order to be perceived, but that's already a delayed reaction. But when you have an emotion, it's immediate, it's right there. So that's your breath. So your breath carries basically your whole diaphragm itself. The anatomy of your diaphragm carries your emotional profile. Your whole psychological profile is in your diaphragm, which is a central muscle in your body that allows the breath. That's very different from one person to the next because we feel differently. And that's how your breath changes yourself during the day because you feel differently at different times of the day. Your breath changes that. The movement of the breath has a different impact on every single function in your body. All your metabolism depends on your breath and the way you move. Your internal movement, given by the breath, your diaphragm is connected to your psoas muscles, which are the muscles of your walk. And that's why everyone walks differently. The same way you breathe differently because of different feelings, you walk differently because you're a different person. So your internal structure reflects your mind. That's your biology of your between your thinking and your feelings. We're talking about the soul axis of your body. And then your spirit. You carry in yourself information that's much older than you are. So where is that? It's not in your brain. Your brain is way too small to carry all this. It's in every single cell in your body. That's called genetic background. So that's in your biology, yes, your DNA, your chromosomes, all that. It carries your past, every single cell of your body. So that's another different biology. So I recommend you review all this, and it's all in there, okay? I don't want to go to repeat all this that most of people already know. But your question is good. It's always good to bring it back. Because even experienced people that have been on for a long time, they forget. Okay. Any other questions about especially what we were treating this today about being able to, yeah, go ahead, Taylor.
Gilles, I have a question. You're talking about diversity and the interesting things that come from different cultures. Sometimes when different cultures come together, they clash and they crash based upon how they view one particular part of culture.
Yes.
Does that need refinement on both sides to take the better parts of each culture and refine each individually that way? Or how does,
Absolutely.
maybe you can talk more about that.
Oh, yes. So basically, again, it's like because of the trends, so-called the civilized world is very mental and based on shoulds. We make other culture try to think the same way. And what happens? They become automatically competitive. And they become competitive with each other and with ourselves. And that's what the biggest influence we've been doing as Westerners to the rest of the world is to put borders. Before the British, before the French, before the colonies, there were no borders. There were no countries. There were just nations, different nations. And yes, they were warring. Yes, they were fighting. But it was a little different. So yes, that's always this aspect of conflict. But what, this not only this, even the big conflict right now between the Middle East, for example, and there's been there for a long time. This is not this generation being in war with the Middle East, in the West. even before Napoleon and even before the colonies, and all that. There's always been. But there's not only wars. There's also exchange, cultural exchange. We have glass windows in the West only after returning from the Crusades. We learn mathematics. We improve our music, we improve the food, even the dyes. We didn't have so many colors, in our clothing. So traveling. So yes, there's always going to be conflict and everything, but it's about, again, critical mass. There is those imaginative cells that's operating in caterpillars that eventually is going to evolve humanity into a nation of butterflies. But we have to face it. We're still caterpillars. We're still worms. We need to learn. But those cells are developing. We're playing music very differently in the Western world than we did 20 years ago, 50 years, 100 years ago. I mean, come on. There's so much, confusion music right now. It means with fusion. What? What's music? Yeah? It's like with somewhere the cocoon is being formed. It's becoming comfortable, and new recipes in your kitchen. New kind of music in your living room, a new kind of So it's not only conflict going on. The overemphasizing of conflict comes only through the media. And this biggest conflict we have is not only between nations, it's between fortunes, people taking advantage, there is rapacity, the scavengers out there making more profit out of situation and improving their situation to more profit. So we don't need to be caught up with that. They are going to exist until they disappear. That's the part of the caterpillar thing. Caterpillar has to eat so much before they become into butterflies. And then butterflies, they don't eat so much any longer. They sip a little bit of nectar. They can live all day, with it. The caterpillar has to eat all day long. Don't worry, we're changing. We just need to respect the change. So yes, different culture, even neighbors, they're gonna fight. They're gonna make fun. They're gonna whatever disrespect. It's okay. That's part of evolution. From those crises, eventually, we'll become more respect, more paying attention. In that we saw into time of crisis. It's not only a time of crisis of commercial thing of obliging people to beg for our vaccines or things like that, or buying this, buying that, the political control. No, there is also true flu. There is also true viruses. There is diseases, and people help each other. It really brings humanity out of people. There's an earthquake, there is a tornado, there is some kind of disaster. All of a sudden, you forget about the religion, you forget about racism, you help, no matter what. And humanity comes out of you. You're starting to grow your wings as a butterfly. You're becoming more human. That's what's important. So, not so much focusing on negative aspects. Turn off the TV, turn off those media is always making money out of disaster. That's always been a big money-making scheme. No, be respectful, basically, yes, I mean, you have to wear a mask, I do, you have to, and also be aware, learn about science, about epidemiology, learn about the viruses and everything. But also be respectful of other people's belief system. It's okay. It's going to evolve on this. We're going to come out of this. But help each other, not fight each other into it. That's the main thing. I don't know if I answered your question. I always take tangents. Very good, very good. Okay. So a few more minutes. So time for maybe one or two more questions. No questions? Or silence all of a sudden, even the background silence.
Gilles, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
In a way, I understood what you mean about not taking our fear.
Not taking what? I missed that.
That we
What?
have.
I missed something. Go ahead. Can you repeat?
When you were speaking about not taking our feelings personally,
Yes.
that we are not our, that we have them.
Yes.
There's a way that I got confused with the term when you said that we don't take responsibility for our feelings, because when you've spoken about taking responsibility before, it seemed like our maturity would allow for us to take responsibility for
Yes.
just who we are, how we are, and what we do.
Exactly.
And so
Okay.
I just got confused with the
very, very important question. Okay, everyone needs to hear about this. We're not responsible for the feelings we have, but we are responsible on how we manage them. That's a big difference. Okay, we're not responsible for getting dirty water in our earth. We're responsible to manage it. We're responsible for the filtering. We're responsible to make it clearer and making better for the future, especially for the kids, for the next generations. So at the mental level, it's exactly the same thing. We are not responsible for the way we think and the way we feel about it. We are responsible for how we manage those thoughts into a behavior and how we manage those feelings into what we call ourselves. Again, being true to yourselves. Again, it's not being perfect, but taking responsibility for improvement, to be able to keep cultivating the capacity to get what we call maturity. And that's basically from the disease perspective, from the healing perspective, is the ability to not to get affected negatively by the pathological factor. That's how healing happens. We come from a place of suffering to be able to respect the pain and to be able to listen to it. And that's the way we're going to outgrow it, not by reacting to it, but by working with it, using all the messages, using all the information that our body is trying to communicate. And that's a true holistic approach. So the holistic approach, we need to communicate it through the understanding of the mind and the way it functions. So we're not responsible for the way we feel, but we are responsible for how we manage those feelings. And eventually be able to come to a place where we don't get affected by those feelings any longer. Emotionally, that's what I call the place of so what. You feel like, yes, I feel that way. I have all good reasons, I feel that way because my mother did that to me, my father did that to me. This happened to me and that happened to me. Therefore, I have all the reason in the world to feel that way. Now, if you stay there, you're stuck. And not only yes, you justify your feelings, yes, you validate them, but then you get stuck. So what you need to do is not to be sure, yes, of course, you justify everything. This or that happened to me. But you know what? It's okay. I'm not going to change my mother. I'm not going to change the past. I'm not going to change the situation. I'm not going to change whatever events happened to me. I'm going to outgrow the whole thing. I need to incubate. I need to sleep over it. I need to give myself the place, the time, the support system, the energy. Basically, I need to invest into basically sleeping into entering the healing process, allowing myself to incubate and to grow out of it. Because this is what we're designed biologically to do naturally. We need to digest those emotions that are not digestible because not acceptable. But they're already in our system. What to do? You cannot throw them out. Huh? Now you discover them. So there's no way around it. I feel that way. Now I need to change. This happens naturally when you sleep. It's called emotional digestion. And only the mystery of that cocoon and the mystery of that incubation, we don't really know what's happening, but you know it's happening. Your body is able to extract the very best of that energy that's so negative. And I need to purify it. I need to filter out and takes only the very best of it and nourishes your soul. Makes you gives you more maturity, makes you a better person, a better human. This is how it's done. By respecting the feelings, but not taking it personally. Those feelings were older than I am. It's been transmitted to me. So I'm not responsible, but I am responsible now that I know about them to do something about it. Okay? Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. All right. So I think that's too late for more questions. We're getting to the last. So again, I'm gonna have just one more lesson next week, and then I'll be away. I'll be not traveling for teaching now takes a long time because I need to quarantine. But there's a good news about it. I'm gonna take advantage of it. So the quarantine again, the cocooning, before talking to other people in other countries. Finally, it's just a few paragraphs to write on this third booklet, and hopefully I'm gonna have the time to do that while I'm traveling next month, and I'll be able to publish that third booklet on the biology of consciousness when I come back in November. So that's the good news. Hopefully, a lot of wood. That's wood. Okay. So anything to say before I go? So for next week, let's prepare. We're gonna try to answer as many questions as possible at this time. Also, I would like to do a practice, and today we haven't time to practice because so much talking, too much thinking, all that. So next week, practice and questions. I think that will be the most important part to do for the last class of this series. Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks,
So,
Gilles.
again, I was happy to be here. And nice to have audience, so I'm able to transmit what I know and all that. So I'm very thankful for it. You being here. All right. So see you next week.
All right.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, David.
joining us.
Thanks, Jill. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.